No, you...
Marker.
Yeah, oh my god, that's right. Why did you say that so well?
I watch a lot of bloopers.
Okay. We're doing Q&A.
Q&A!
Finally.
Finally! 8 months later.
No, it was out in July, August, September, October, and it was 4 months later.
Oh, okay.
So, hello, welcome back to TTM Jess Show. 4 months ago, we released a little old series called Never Doubt. And I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you know what it is. Otherwise, you should go watch it first. Then come back. Anyway, we're going to answer some questions.
Wow, we're really rusty.
Anonymous said, was there anything specific that inspired Never Doubt? Or was it more because you had reached that time in the timeline? Probably more the latter, I think. We've been trying to mostly, since we both started like playing Remus and Tonks opposite each other and established like a storyline together with them. Mm-hmm. We've done it in like a rough chronological order.
Ish.
This is about as far as we've got. We haven't gone past this point. We haven't gone past like them, like Tonks getting pregnant or Remus running away again or the sad.
No, this is a lie. This is a lie. You know what inspired this?
What?
Was all the posts ripping on Tonks in that scene.
The hospital scene?
The hospital scene.
God.
That's what inspired all of Never Doubt, was all the posts of everyone like
Tonks is a manipulator!
hating on Tonks in that scene.
Poor
because they were like,
Remus.
there is more to this than meets the eye.
You have no idea. All you got from that
all
scene
the subtext
was Harry going,
what the fuck is going on?
that's weird. Are they like dating or something? And it's like, you idiot! Of course they are!
Because there's no subtext, there's no, like, if you're just looking at it at face value, then yes. But look closer.
No, you got it wrong!
Is it deeper?
Look harder!
All I know is that was what inspired all of Never Doubt.
Basically,
Spite!
spite and a mission to fucking save my girl Tonks' reputation. Because she ain't no manipulator. Anyway, yes, so the aim...
Spite!
The aim with Never Doubt. Oh no. Lots of people think that scene after the hospital scene where Remus and Tonks are together, they're like, oh, that's the first time they got together. But we both think that's complete bullshit because they get married pretty much immediately after that as well. You don't just get together and get married.
I mean, unless you're Mormon. Unless you're from Utah.
But, so we thought, no, obviously there had to be something going on. And I think with tidbits that, like, J.K. Rowling has released since then, yeah, there was definitely stuff going on in that year and even years prior. You can even see it in the books. Even in, like, The Order of the Phoenix. Whenever you see Tonks, you see Remus, and they're always going on missions together, and they're always, like, paired up together, which is where the idea of them being mission partners originally came from as well. Subtext.
You just have to read between
equals
the lines.
butt sex. Or not. Anona said, how long was it between the idea of the thread and the finished product? How long did each step take? In total, it was about 1.5 years of work. I think it took me about 6-7 months to do the script. That wasn't constant writing. I think I would work on it for like a couple months at a time. I'd have like some weeks where I'd be writing like every night.
And then we do revisions.
And then we do revisions, and then I'd like have a month break and I'd go back to it and read it again and be like, oh no. I think I finished, okay, this is what I remember. I finished writing it in like September of last year, and then you came over in December and we started filming in about February. Yeah. And it took us about 2 solid months of filming to film. So we kind of wrapped up filming in like April, and then it took us from April to July to edit it together. Yeah. But no, most of it was kind of just filmed in one fell swoop, and it was a lot of work.
It was a lot of crying. It was nights and nights of crying.
We'll get onto that bit. Seriously Over the Moony said, when you write a script, how do you write it? Is it like a cohesive story or more like an actual theatre/movie script? Do you write all of it at once, or is it a long process of piecing together different ideas? Me personally, I always try and think of what I want the cohesive story to be and the story arc. I am not the sort of person who can just start writing and hope it goes somewhere, because it will give me endless anxiety. So I knew what I wanted to achieve. I wanted this to kind of end at the hospital scene. I wanted it to end at the hospital scene and then coming back together and there being a resolution at the end. I wasn't quite sure how to lead up to that and what to show, because it's a long period of time. It was about a year that we had to show in a story and keep it snappy and keep it moving. So I had to keep that in mind when writing the script. It was basically I just started writing the parts how I envisioned them to be, and then it was just a lot of revision and going back and cutting stuff, because the threads were getting, like, the parts were getting so long, so being really brutal about cutting stuff.
Jess is really good at cutting everything down. I'm the one who elongates everything to the point of, like, it's ridiculous, and then she comes in and goes, and this is gone. And I'm like, but...
Yeah, and then obviously you helped me massively with the script, because we were working so closely on this, and you are so knowledgeable about your characters that you play, Remus and Fenrir, and you have so much, like, personal, like, headcanons for them.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got TT to write a lot of the lines for those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it would kind of almost be like real, like, organic RP, where we would just kind of like
go back and forth,
right,
which is really fun.
Just a really fun way to write a script, very, like, unconventional, but it was a lot of fun. So I really wanted your input on kind of, like, especially Fenrir, because I think Fenrir, especially as a character, I was like, I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah, I think you wrote like a basis for what you wanted in that scene, like where the direction you wanted the scene to go, and then you just kind of let me do the dialogue for that.
But in terms of how he reacted to certain situations, I consulted you a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think the most fun was when we were going back and forth as Mima and Fenrir. We have such a fun dynamic with those two, and so it was really fun to be able to write the script and have that, like, kind of like you were saying with the role play where it's back and forth and whatever, to be able to do that with Fenrir and Mima, because then it was very organic and very, like, natural.
I don't think that would really work if you're writing, like, a script for television or film. Are so different, but when you're writing a thread and an RP script in this format, to actually organically RP something, have that written down, and then take that and then condense it and refine it and make it really good, has actually worked really well for this series. So that was really cool. And then a lot of pieces were almost like mini stories in one, such as the first part with the order scene. That was like a little one shot that just came out and just got written in like half an hour, and it was like perfect, and that was like a really great starting point. Other parts are really hard to write.
Painstaking.
So it was really, really enjoyable thing to write, but lots of work. I'm happy with that script.
It's so good.
I like it.
You did so good.
Thank you. I love this question. Actual Ronald B. Weasley said, "Why did you decide to make the main conflict with Fenrir for Never Doubt? It turned out beautifully and was so well done, but why him when it could have been another Death Eater or antagonist?"
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Fenrir was kind of established as the antagonist because you've got Voldemort, who's kind of an overarching antagonist, but he doesn't have necessarily a direct personal connection.
Yeah.
Unless you're considering it, with Harry, it's perfect because he's part of Voldemort. It's like there's obviously a very real connection there.
But that mirrors completely because Fenrir is part of Remus.
You don't get to see a lot of Fenrir, and you don't know a lot of his backstory. All you know pretty much about him from, like, before...
He's a scary werewolf
he's a scary werewolf who bit Remus, and ruined Remus's life. And so it feels like the perfect way to introduce a really fun villain. Same thing with Bellatrix.
And Sirius.
Yeah. Because you have that direct conflict.
Complete mirror. Like, they're from the same family, they're part of each other. Fenrir and Remus, they're just, like, perfect, like, hero villain archetype.
And when you're focusing on the Marauders as the main characters, like when you're taking that storyline, then you need to have that direct conflict. You need to have something that personally impacts them instead of it just being this overarching, like, everyone's at war kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's affecting everyone, but it's nice to have that direct
Of course,
threat.
like, Voldemort killed Harry's parents. Fenrir turned Remus into a werewolf. He's the perfect villain for this series. And because Remus and Tonks are moving through their arc, and they're coming closer together, of course Fenrir is going to be pulled into that, and he's going to make a reappearance. And I think introducing that, we'd never done anything with Fenrir and Tonks before, like, they'd not
that was
met.
so fun.
So doing their first meeting in this series was like, especially with all the stuff we've done with Fenrir's psychology and how he feels like ownership of Remus and how he wants Remus to be constantly connected to him. When Remus builds this other connection with Tonks,
Mm-hmm.
then
Well,
it's
and it
like,
moves on. First off, moves on with his life and is starting to like have
has the audacity
some
to be
happiness.
happy.
Yeah, especially after Fenrir had broken him.
Yeah.
Like, that was Fenrir's entire goal in life, was to break Remus. And then he did it, and it was like, oh, hell yeah. And he comes back from it.
Someone put him back together again, and he hates it.
He's so mad.
He hates her for doing that. Another thing on that, so it's not just Fenrir. You've obviously got Fenrir's right hand, the lady, Mima, which is a great opposition for Tonks.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Fenrir and Remus and Mima and Tonks, and they both have very different villain-hero dynamics.
Very different.
Almost like
different.
blurred line hero dynamic with Mima. Fenrir is just one of the best antagonists, and like full credit to you, because what a fucking great character. I just have to be like, yep, I'm gonna put him in here. Boom, magic. The moon and stars, my love. Oh, I love her, and I love her tap, and I love her questions. She's
You're the best.
great. Okay, the Remadora storyline that you and TT are exploring is a thing of heartbreaking, bitter, and sweet beauty. Focusing on Never Doubt, it fills in so many blanks and builds so much more character development by exploring motivations, introducing both original and canon characters, and digging deeper into relationships and dynamics. Thanks! What's the best and or most challenging part of writing within the constraints of the narrative that already exists, either plot-wise or character-specific?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's challenging because I didn't want this. I wanted this to be a canon compliant story.
Yeah.
Or arguably canon compliant, because we've made a shit ton of stuff up. But
Yeah.
it fits very well within existing material in the books.
Yeah, we did a lot of research.
Did a lot of rereading of those couple of books, which is when I noticed all these tiny little moments of Remus and Tonks always being together, and that was like very validating. Writing this, you've got to maintain a real good balance of keeping canon compliant, but not so much that you're restricting yourself and making it not as fun to read or enjoy. If we need to bend stuff slightly to be more enjoyable and more interesting, then we will. Otherwise, we try and keep it within the confines.
Yeah.
Just this pairing specifically. I mean, with pairings like Wolfstar and stuff that we write, I mean, pretty much like all canon goes out the window. But I think because Remadora is a canon pairing, we wanted to keep this story canon compliant.
And believable within the context.
Until we get to the end, and then once all that's done, then we'll be like, cool, now we get to do and everyone lives, we
can do whatever the fuck we want.
Exactly, but until that point, we're keeping it pretty straight and narrow. Anonymous said, is there anything you found difficult when producing Never Doubt, whether it be writing or a specific scene, or choosing other actors?
Ooh.
Choosing other actors was just not difficult at all, because they're all freaking great.
It's limiting your choices.
Yeah, no.
That's what's hard.
The hard thing was actually, like, there's so many good actors in our community, was actually hard just actually choosing just one of them for, like, one character.
Yeah.
In terms of how we cast the script, characters like Arthur and Molly and Bill and Fleur, we definitely wanted to reach out, because it's just a really fun opportunity to get,
to collaborate and be able to work with other really talented RPers.
And it's also so gratifying to write a script and to write a character, but actually give it to someone and let
see how
them
they
completely interpret it their own way.
Yeah. That really is, like, probably the most entertaining part, is seeing how people interpret different characters. Because you might have a certain idea of, like, how you would portray them, or how, like, you want them to be portrayed or whatever, and then somebody comes back with something and you're like, oh, like,
Yeah.
never would have thought to do that.
But that happens
never
several
would have thought,
times.
and it's so clever, and the way that people, like, tweak things, and just, like, it was beautiful.
Yeah, that was just my favourite kind of part overall about the series, is working with other people and seeing what they did with the thing I gave them. Mm-hmm. It was very gratifying.
That's awesome.
I'm very grateful to all of you, so thank you. Femme Seriously Obsessed said, how often did you and TT film parts of characters completely separate from each other? And how did being able to act together make a difference in how you portrayed your characters?
Made a huge difference.
Yes. There were so many scenes that had two people in them having a conversation. So the fact that we were able to act those scenes out in the same room together was like, I don't think the series would have been half as good if we had had to film that separately. Like, it completely elevated the entire series, being able to be in each other's presence and act act against each other and be able to feed off each other's vibe.
It's almost crippled us. We have a really hard time filming things separately now. Also, it changed the way that we filmed things. Because normally what we would do is, it's like you film something straight on and you keep it kind of in that framing for the duration of the scene. It's easy to do that when you're switching back and forth between faces, because then there's some dynamic change. But the problem is that when you're filming the same shot over and over again with two people in the same scene who are talking to each other, it got very stagnant.
Yeah, you see the same image of two people in a GIF again and again and again.
So we ended up having to like split it up, and we started doing stuff where it's like, okay, so let's change the angle, so now we're filming like my face and your face. If there were like certain scenes where it's like, okay, we really want to get the expression on my face in this moment and have it not be like from the side.
It would be a single shot.
It'd be a single shot. And so we would switch back and forth between that. And so it changed a lot of the way that we usually would normally film something.
And we actually refilmed a scene. Part 7, which is the scene in the tower, was like the first scene of this entire series that we filmed.
we refilmed it for several reasons. First off being because I was very ill.
It was the first scene we filmed of this entire thing. We filmed everything else, and then at the end went back and looked at that footage. I was like, we have to refilm it. We were so used to filming separately that even when we were in the same shot together, we weren't
utilizing each other.
We weren't interacting with each other, like physically.
Yeah.
So we ended up completely changing it. We used to be sat on a bench against my wall. We ended up sitting ourselves on the floor so we could like properly like lean against each other and be in each other's presence. We changed the angles, we changed the lighting, and the difference between the first time we filmed it and 2 months later when we filmed it again was like night and day. It was crazy.
You still have that footage, right?
I do, yeah. I will. I'm going to put it on my Patreon and do a side-by-side because it's very, very cool to look at.
It was incredible how much the tone changed in the whole vibe of it. And it was funny because, like, it was boring.
It was.
The first one we filmed was boring.
It was terrible. We weren't acting properly. It was just, like, stiff. And it wasn't... We were watching it and we were going, God, these guys are meant to be in love. And we don't believe it. And there's no chemistry.
Well, after a month... Because by that point, we'd been filming with each other for at least a month. So we'd really gotten comfortable, and we'd really gotten into, we'd broken out of that, okay, this is GIF acting, and it became just, like, this is us two people interacting and creating a scene together, right? And so it was really cool to see the shift that happened. That was the coolest part, is going, like, improvement!
Yeah!
Yay!
TT... Do you draw from any media or any other fictional character in your characterization and physicality of Fenrir? And also someone asked, is it hard to play Fenrir?
I really like the Moriarty type villain. I love,
Insane, but like... just barely controlled.
Yes. It's the type of villain where nothing phases them. Somebody can do something to them and it doesn't make them upset, and they're just, like, entertained. I mean, I didn't necessarily base him off of Moriarty, but that's the type of villain that I'm drawn to.
Yeah, the psychology behind it. He's always going, I'm fucking bored! He's doing, all of the shit he does is motivated by his own sheer boredom.
Nobody entertains him because everyone's predictable, right?
Yeah.
Fenrir finds his counterpart with Remus, where it's like, here's someone who has broken the mold. He's going to Hogwarts. He's the first werewolf to ever go to Hogwarts. He's living a normal life. There's no other werewolf that's really doing that.
Yeah.
And so he looks at that and he goes, ooh, that's interesting. And he has that ownership over him because he's the one who bit him. Remus is his. And as far as, is he hard to play? Not really, because it's fun. I think it's easier to play because it's so different from me. Out of all the characters I play, Fenrir is the polar opposite of me. Like, in every possible way,
I would hope
Fenrir is the opposite. Yes, please God.
Yeah, it's like you're not trying to be relatable or try and get the audience to connect to them or root for them. Like, you've got a blank slate and you can go as hard as you want with that character because there's just no limits.
Yeah.
There is no limits to Fenrir or what he will do.
Yeah, he's
So you
terrifying.
can make some crazy acting decisions that you can pretty much justify because he is just that character.
Yeah, you can really do whatever you want with the character, and that's what's terrifying about him, is that he is completely unpredictable in the sense of, like, he'll do literally anything.
Noir Foz said, how do y'all do such amazing things with your eyes when you play Mima, Fenrir, and Moody? I'm also always in shock at how you can move the eyes separately when playing Moody or Fenrir. For Mima, I just try and always show the whites of my eyes when I'm playing her. I have very big eyes anyway. And the contacts help a lot with Mima. The contacts are slightly bigger than my irises, so they make my eyes look huge. But when I'm embodying her physically, I will always have my eyebrows raised, and my entire face is very open. Like, her mouth will always be super wide whenever she talks, and her eyes will be very wide, and it just gives the illusion of, like, her being very bug-eyed and crazy. But yeah, Fenrir and Moody do some fun things with their eyes.
I just have really weird eyeballs, and I have a lot of control over what I do with them, and my eyebrows are independent of each other. So when I designed the characters, it was kind of a fluke with Fenrir, because I mean, Mad Eye is easy, it's easy because it's like we know that he has his crazy eye and whatever, and so that was more a matter of like makeup.
I can do the crazy eye. Can I? Am I doing it?
But with Fenrir, that was kind of a just kind of last minute decision, because I initially wasn't doing that with him when I first started playing Fenrir. I just put the scars on his face, and then I was just kind of playing him, and then I was like, wait a minute, and I looked at the camera and I went, and then I was like, yeah.
Wait, do your Fenrir face as a normal person, and we was just like this all the time. Anonymous said, how many times did you have to record the scenes with Fenrir pushing Tonks against the wall to get it without breaking character? You know what? We're pretty damn good at not breaking character.
We're pretty good at it, yeah.
In order to get a really good performance, you can't break character that often, and both of us in those scenes, I mean, the scenes with Tonks and Fenrir were so intense.
They were scary.
They were not, in other, like, more light-hearted scenes, when we were acting opposite each other, we broke character because it's funny and light-hearted, but those scenes were very, very intense.
Very physical.
Physical to film, so in order to get the tone right and to make it believable, we had to be very much in the characters' heads all the time.
Yeah, I think the only moments that we really were breaking character was when I would throw Jess against the wall, and all of a sudden I'd be like, oh god, that was really hard.
We padded I wore a jacket, a denim jacket, and we stuffed a pillow up it.
The hunchback.
Padding! Boom! Oh my god, that's so much better.
Yay! Hide a pillow in your jacket.
So TD could literally, like, throw me against the wall, and I'd smack against it, but I wouldn't, like, hurt my back, and then I'd just be, like, padded by a pillow, so that was fun.
That was clever.
Good clever. Yeah! Keyworld1101 said, I'd love to know how you two did the blood gag where Tonks bites Fenrir's hand. Also, how you managed to get into such a serious mood for the violent scenes. That was your idea. That wasn't, we didn't think of that.
Until we were filming.
Again, this wasn't written in the script, but, like, it comes in the physicality of when you're acting, and you kind of feel things out when you're those characters. So Titi was doing this thing where Tonks was, like, running her mouth and saying shit at him, and he literally just grabbed her mouth and, like, held it shut. And Titi was like, oh, you should bite his hand, and then he just doesn't react.
Honestly, when you're filming scenes like that, one thing that drives me crazy is when you see a scene in a film that's not believable. When you see, like, something happen, like, if somebody grabs you by the mouth, you're gonna fucking bite them. Like, it's gonna happen.
Especially if you're Nymphadora Tonks.
Especially if you're Nymphadora Tonks. It felt off not having some kind of reaction there, or not having her, like, do something to fight back. So that's kind of where that came from.
And it was a really fun way to introduce some, like, SFX into what we were doing.
Yeah.
How we did the special effects, because it was a spur of the moment, oh, we should do this. I didn't have any, like, edible fake blood on hand. So we took maple syrup and red food colouring that you would use in baking, and dyed the maple syrup, and I held it in my mouth. We filmed the scene, and Titi grabbed my face and pinned me against the wall, and then I, like, motioned as if I was biting your hand, and then, like,
spit it between my fingers.
Spit it between your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did just spit fake blood onto Titi Brett's hand. Which, by the way, does not taste like maple syrup. It tastes like ass. Not that I know what that tastes like. It was beautiful.
It was brilliant. I was so pleased with how it turned out.
We only did 2 takes of that, and I think we used the first one. So
it was so gross.
It was
so nasty.
I had to hold it in my mouth for a really long time.
Well, we're sitting there going, maple syrup, that'll be fine, right? That'll be great. No, you add that dye, it is fucking disgusting.
But like holding a mouthful of maple syrup in your mouth for like 3 or 4 minutes is just gross anyway. But it looked great, so worth it. Anonymous said, do you guys have a special tell or signal to stop a scene? Like if it gets too scary or if you need a break?
Yeah, Jess goes, ooh!
Ooh!
I don't do that until after the scene, thank you very much. Okay, no, there was one time where I was like, nope!
Sorry, so scary.
It's so scary!
Well, here's the thing. We both break character very quickly if the other person breaks character. If there was like a moment where it was like too intense or whatever, and one of us was like, ooh, then the other one immediately was like, okay, we're good.
We're very, very in sync, and I think if someone noticed that, this didn't happen, but if someone noticed that the other person was uncomfortable or stressed out, then it would just stop.
And we talk about things very thoroughly before we do it.
Oh, yeah. This isn't like an improv, like, you don't throw me against a wall without, like, thoroughly discussing it first.
We choreograph everything very thoroughly.
We do several, like, very slow-mo run-throughs of, like, the very physical scenes before we even start filming.
How am I holding you? I'm not sure. I would have grabbed you from behind. Right? Okay. This?
No.
Like this? This is like a
prom photo. There were a bunch of moments where it's like, we will tell the other person to be aggressive.
You can be a bit more aggressive. No.
There was a moment where the scene was not looking right, where Tonks was shoving Remus up against the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Because Jess was worried about hurting me, and so she would just kind of like very lightly like shove me. But it's hard to get that motion across the right way, and so I was literally telling her, I'm like, literally fucking punch me. Basically, it's all down to communication. We make sure that we're communicating through the whole thing, and it ends up looking great. Yay!
What's up, it's Wendy. Wendy! Said, who breaks character more? Is there one character you both find especially difficult to get into the headspace of? Is Mima dead? So, first of all, who breaks character more?
I feel like it's pretty even.
Okay, good. I was gonna say it was even.
Sorry.
So
we would sometimes be filming for like 7-8 hours straight, like from like 5 p.m.
You start to get delirious.
through the entire night up until like 6-7 a.m. the next morning. Like, it was just ridiculous.
I'm showing everyone my shaking hand. Dedication.
We used that to our advantage when we were emotional and like on the verge of mental breakdowns. I feel like it added a certain element.
It did great. Made it very real.
Yeah, you see the sheer wild panic and craziness in our eyes in those scenes. That was real.
Happy. Most of this is makeup. A lot of it isn't.
Do you find it hard to get into a certain character's headspace?
The only time that I find it difficult to get into a headspace is when we're doing a really intense emotional scene.
Yes.
Because, that's not necessarily because of, like, the individual characters, it's more coming from a place of just doing intense emotions.
We really had to make ourselves feel those emotions. It wasn't a thing where you could, like, cry for camera and go, okay, and like look at your line and then do it, because it just wouldn't flow.
Yeah,
so
you
a
have
lot
to
of it was like really like you would spend like 20 minutes sometimes like prepping. Like we listened to a lot of music.
There's so much sad music.
Very sad music.
After that night, we had a lot of, like, cuddling. We were like, okay, time to feel better now, because, good God, is Mima dead?
Aha! Yes. Of course she is.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't she be? You saw, she died.
Yeah.
Anonymous said, did anyone or anything inspire the character of Mima? No! No, because Mima just
was a fluke.
A throwaway character for a random thread of yours. She was just a girl that Fenrir had kidnapped. Then she evolved into actually, oh no, she's not a kidnapped girl, she's actually a werewolf, haha. Then it was like, oh my god, this character's really funny and crazy and insane, and she just evolved into this person that became Fenrir's right-hand lady.
Yep, and it was amazing.
And she's not based on any character from the books or anything else.
Yeah.
She's just Mima.
It creates a really cool dynamic for Fenrir, because you don't get to see
him
a lot of
interact
him interacting
with
with
an
like his
ally.
pack. Yeah, with somebody who he considers to be somebody that is important to him.
Yeah. Mima added a completely new dynamic to Fenrir. Like that a completely new side that we had not seen. We had only seen Fenrir in the context of his interactions with Remus. That's one side of him, but then you see him in, you know, the privacy of his own, like, lair or whatever, interacting with allies. And it's so interesting to actually see the difference in how he treats Fenrir and Mima and the similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one's an ally, but he still is, like, Mima is his, and it's his to control. And their stories are very similar. Like, Mima was turned when she was very young by Fenrir. So was Remus. Mima's almost what Remus would have been
if Fenrir had raised
him. Her entire childhood was taken from her. That's why she's like permanently like in this childlike state, because she never had the chance to grow up. She's just insane. And she didn't have like the support of a family or friends or an education or anything. She just had
all she had was Fenrir.
I love this bit of the story. I love it.
So fun.
It's like we wrote a story about Remus and Tonks and ended up with a complete side story that was just as interesting and engaging about Fenrir and Mima.
It is so fun how Mima's character developed, because it really, like, it came from nothing. Like, it came from a character that was supposed to be,
just
like, a random victim.
Yeah, we didn't even know each other very well when you were
I was just like, hey, you want to do this?
This random person, and I was like,
do you want to get tied up and look beaten? Here's the thing. So, we had the moment where she played the victim and everything, and I was like, ooh, she did a really good job. That was awesome. And then, like, I had the idea of, like, oh, what if we made this character something, like, a little bit different? But once again, she wasn't really even going to be much of a character. She was one of his, like, side pack members or whatever, and so I was just like, oh, this will just be a fun little interaction, right? And then just
you
pulls
didn't
off...
know what you were working with.
I had no fucking... She got those gifts to me, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I love her. I was so fucking blown away.
But listen, the first time I played that throwaway character, we really didn't know each other very well, and I was kind of like, oh, I'll just be like a beaten up, like, girl for DD. And I got to know you, and then so when you asked me to, like, redo it and turn it into something else, I was like, this is my chance to impress you.
And now Mima has her own
Funko Pop. This is Mima, look! She's got the bloody face and the crazy eyes and the plaid. Literally, how did we go from a random side character to a fully fledged OC to someone literally making a Funko Pop of this character? Like,
we done good.
We did great. Next question. How old is Mima? So the backstory for Mima that we introduced in Never Doubt is that Fenrir, before he was turned into a werewolf, had this like group of crime people. You say this bit, because this is not my backstory.
So Fenrir, he gets really obsessed with the idea of family because he lost his, and not because he necessarily cared about his family, because he didn't give a shit about his parents. He wanted to kill them. They got away.
Yeah.
Things that were supposed to be his got away. And so he has this obsession with people leaving him. When he's wandering in the streets, whatever, he starts to get connected up with all these people who are also outcasts. And he starts to kind of create this environment where he becomes a reliable source of, like, income for them. He becomes, protection.
Security.
Yeah, and so he gives them a home.
Yeah.
But at a price, if they kind of stray from the path or whatever, he punishes them.
One of the members of that pack family is Mima's mother. She is a sex worker who got pregnant and became part of the pack. You see in the flashback that actually they have a little bit of a rapport. Like, she actually, like, has this almost, like, connection
respect
with him.
for him.
And he for her. Like, she speaks to him in a way that no one else would ever get away with.
Yeah.
And he kind of puts up with it. And it's kind of like she's like, I know you, blah, blah. By this time, Mima's 6 years old. And Fenrir wants Mima to start working and, pulling her weight, and Mima's mum is going,
She's six.
And he's going, if you have a child, you have unconditional loyalty and love, right? Mm-hmm. So he's like, I'm gonna get me one of those, take you out of the picture, because you're swaying and you want to leave. You want to leave me and you want to take your child, and that's not going to happen. So he kills Mima's mother. This all happened before Remus, so Mima's actually older than Remus by like a couple years. She's got this crazy weird baby face, and she's older than Remus, so she's probably like 36, 37. Because Remus is about 34, 35 at this time. Which is nuts. Mima's like in her late 30s. Fenrir is in his like 50s. Okay, the big question. What happened to Mima's body? Does Remus know that she's dead? Remus doesn't know for sure that she's dead. I think Remus probably assumes.
Suspects.
Because he knows that she went after Fenrir without him.
And there's
his
a
wand,
pile of blood.
Huge pool of blood in the floor, and she's gone. Knowing Fenrir, he's like, she didn't get out of that alive. What happened to Mima's body? You don't know. There is an explanation for it, but yeah, you don't know. She's dead. Sorry. Sorry. When said, can you talk about what it's like to see each other switch from normal you to a bad guy? Like, is it scary to see TT as Fenrir? Is it scary to see Jess with Mima's intense scary eyes?
I mean, no.
You don't find Nina scary?
No, not particularly. Mima's not
She's just
scary.
unhinged, and I reckon if you were in her presence as like a real person, you'd be like, okay, well, I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She's not scary. Fenrir is scary.
Fenrir's scary.
Fenrir's scary. I know from experience. Fenrir is scary. I think I was pretty much fine the entire time until Mima's death scene. Where you had me on the floor and you were towering above me and you are much bigger than me and you were very scary. I didn't like it.
I'm sorry.
You scared me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was terrifying. Like, my heart was pounding. It's okay now.
No.
It was a good shot. Malicious Marauders said, how difficult were the fight scenes? Did you ever accidentally hurt each other?
Yes.
Did I hurt you at all?
Yep.
Did I?
When we did the scene where you were shoving Remus against the wall,
Oh no, did I hurt you?
you may have hit a little bit lower than you intended to. Because she was hitting my chest, so it was fine. And then she went a little bit lower.
You didn't tell me that.
That's because I was in the mood. It happened and I kept acting and I was like, oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm smaller than you.
You're short. It's okay.
Chest, breast, what's the difference? When you were on top of me as Fenrir and I was...
Oh, no. Oh, no. It was the worst.
Okay, you're pressing a bit too hard. It's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I have pointy collarbones. I can't breathe.
You had your hand like splayed across my chest, but your full body weight was on me.
And I was mortified. That was such a hard scene to do
was
because
very
I was
hard.
so scared. Especially after I hurt you. Like, I was like, oh my god.
And I'm sure
No.
you probably like choked me out at one point, but like that wasn't too bad.
Did I really choke you just
No.
then?
All I'm seeing is you, darling.
We were mostly very careful. There was no lasting damage. Nothing but a wallflower said, did you and TT find it draining to film the emotional parts? Also, did you film all the happy parts first, then the angst, or was it some scene by scene sort of thing?
It was kind of a little bit more randomized, I feel like, because we just kind of did whatever we were, like, in the mood for that night, and whatever makeup we were getting into for the
Yeah,
night.
but we were aware of, like, we weren't gonna film, like, distraught scenes and then, like, a happy scene. We
Yeah.
did all the happy scenes kind of separately, and then we did one mahoosive night where we did the breakup outside Remus's house, then the order scene where, like, Remus tells everyone that he's gonna leave, then Tonks arguing with him in the hallway, and we did all of that in one night. That was probably not a good idea. We were, like...
We were distraught.
We were very upset.
This was a terrible idea. Why can't they be happy?
Because you wrote the script.
I know. What a fucking monster.
Yeah, we definitely had a couple of days break after that.
Yep.
And then we did all of the post, like, when Remus returned. We did Remus coming back. We did the battle scene. We did the hospital scene. And we did the after hospital scene, the big
All in
sad
the same
one,
night.
all in the same night again.
In the last, 3 hours, I've gone through every emotional roller coaster there is.
Wavelength.
Laughing, anger, hysteria, crying, kissing. Ugh.
We were delirious.
Oh.
I need to go to bed.
You look so fucking crazed.
We've maybe done, like, really sad stuff by ourselves, but
Yeah.
never together.
And it's very different when you're together because it's it's easy enough to get into the headspace when it's just you looking at the camera. It's a lot harder when you're interacting with somebody else and you're trying to
you've got to react
cry.
to the other person's emotions, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like you're a lot more self-conscious when and you're a lot more aware and, you know, like, hyper-aware of what's going on around you.
You have to be so insanely vulnerable with your acting partner to, like, be that, like, rock bottom and, like, crying in front of someone like that.
Yeah.
So it's, like, pretty good testament to how good we'll work together. And we're doing that.
God damn it!
Anonymous asked, did you two ever burst out laughing during takes for the romantic scenes? And if so, which of you did this more often?
I think during, like, If I Could See Your Face, we did a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
If I Could See Your Face was the first, like, romantic scenes that we'd really done together. It wasn't even necessarily, because we weren't uncomfortable. It was just, like, trying to, like, figure out how to make it look nice on camera.
Look natural.
Yeah. And also, I feel like we're both a lot more comfortable with Remus and Tonks.
And we had spent so much time in their headspace by it. Like, If I Could See Your Face was James and Lily, which we don't play an awful lot together. We've never played opposite each other before. And also it was in an AU, so that actually were very different characters in a very different context.
Yeah.
So the romance in those scenes was, like, very new, but it felt way more natural in this series. I think even, like, we were adding in intimate scenes where they weren't written because we were like, no, this feels right for the moment. Like, that final kiss at the end of the whole series wasn't written in.
It wasn't written in.
They were just meant to, like, hold each other. And we were like,
this doesn't feel right.
We filmed it, and we were like, this doesn't feel right. Why would they just hold each other? So
Well, and here's the thing is, I think we were both so ready by the end, because we had been through all this emotional turmoil with them, and we're like, they just need to have some love!
But it's like, it made sense. We'd just lived through what they had lived through. He had been gone for 6 months. They'd been pining after each other for half a year. They had that hug when Tonks thought he was dead, and they, like, hugged and held each other, but they haven't had, like, a... oh my god, we're back together.
Yeah. They didn't have the I love you moment.
No.
They needed the I love you moment. They needed the love.
And they got it. All of the romantic scenes in the series, they weren't humorous. They were so serious and so emotionally fraught. There wasn't any opportunity to laugh or be silly or, like, giggle. It was like we were too in it.
Yeah, okay. The first scene, though.
Oh my god, I forgot about that! I knew there was something
The first one, though.
Okay, no, that was
hilarious.
funny.
Well, literally because we had to do a special effect in that moment. So not only were we doing, like, a sexy scene or whatever where, you know, Remus shoved her up against the wall and everything, but we literally had a moment. She apparates,
Tom
right?
apparates out of his grip. So he had to, like, go that, and then we had to pause, and he was like, doo-doo-doo, and I, like, slid down the wall.
Which looked hilarious out of context. But he's literally sitting there, like, I had to freeze and be, like, frozen up against the wall
and not
while
laugh.
she slides away. I had to maintain my composure while she's sliding away, and it was so hard.
I really like how we had that at the very first scene is them just being funny and, like, us, and it's just gratuitous and, like, stupid and smutty. And the last scene is like they've gone through all of this, and I was like, ah.
Yeah. Here's the thing: you don't get to see that a lot with Remodora.
No.
You don't get to see them being sexy and flirty and cute that way, because, like, most of the moments that you see in the books are really intense or painful.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that people write is really intense and painful. Like, there's not a lot of Remodora smut out there. Because you never get to see them be just a normal couple and be flirty with each other,
and
that's
just
cute.
Have, like, yeah.
It's very humanizing.
Yes, exactly.
Also, Tonks is so young, and it brings out some of the youth in Remus, because Remus is not that old.
Come on, he's like in
Poor
his like
lad.
he's like 34.
Yeah, he's a baby in context, you know, and so, but he acts so old, and so it's fun seeing Tonks bring out that, like, really, like, playful cheeky side of him, you know, especially after everything that he's been through. So it was fun. It was fun seeing them be youthful and fun and flirty, and I loved it.
And I loved the tower scene, because, again, that's just them, like, fucking, like, and just being stupid with each other, and, like, teasing each other, and that was really important, I think, to have that beginning, and then also have that, because that was part 7, and that was right before he met up with Mima, and he breaks up with her. So it's so important for me to have a scene where they were just themselves, and they were just in the quiet moments, and they were just like being stupid and coupley with each other.
To show how compatible they really are, because
Yes.
if all you ever see is them fighting, then
And
there's no
them
reason to feel
breaking
like
up and, like, you're not
there's no
rooting
reason
for
to like
them.
feel like they'd be a good compatible couple, but
Right.
they are. They're compatible.
You want the audience to see them at their best in order to root for them. So that's why we
and to be
those
super
scenes.
sad when they're at their worst.
It made it so much worse, and that's why so many people go, Was it hard to kiss Dee Dee with a beard on? Did their makeup smudge?
Every time.
Every take we did, it was like, beard check! And I had like fucking like brown ears. My Tonks wig got ruined. It was covered in beard makeup.
And I had to reapply my beard several times. We'd like do stuff, and then I'd be like, oh, gotta check, because it would like smudge off, and there'd be like a patch
Yeah, it's like
that was just
holding,
missing.
and then I'd be like, oh no. Femme Seriously Obsessed said, how long did it take you to do the makeup for the bite? The Tonks' bite that she got from Fenrir? Like 15 minutes.
It was amazing.
You were Skyping someone at the time.
I was Skyping someone, and then you came out, and I was just like, what the fuck?
I just like kind of went into the bathroom, and then I had some homemade scar wax that I had made out of like flour and Vaseline, and I just kind of popped it on and like made grooves in it with like the back of a paintbrush to look like teeth indentations, and I just kind of like coloured it to look bloody and stuff, and then I just kind of and I was like kind of going, does that look okay? And I went out to TT, I was like, does this look good? And then before I even finished my sentence, you're like, holy shit! And I was like, okay, that was
good.
yeah, that was real. I'd
so
never
nice.
done makeup like that before, so
That was so cool.
maybe I'll do a little SFX tutorial and put it up on Patreon or something, because that would be fun to do.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
No, for sure. It was awesome.
I enjoyed that. Anonymous said, did you legit spit in Dee Dee's face? Did it take a couple takes? Like, let's get one more just to be safe. When Fenrir stabs me when she spits blood back in his face, that was one take, and it was the worst thing we've ever
was
done.
so stupid.
We ran out of maple syrup by this point.
No, we just didn't want to spit maple syrup in our face.
Oh, that's right. So we thought, what's better than maple syrup? Olive oil.
Basically, we're idiots. Because first off, olive oil and food coloring doesn't mix.
No, it separates.
It separates. So there was literally like, we're trying to mix the two together, we were trying to make it red. When she spit it on my face, it was dripping off, and it was just like the color was dripping off and the rest was staying on. It's a miracle we got that take. Also, it got in my eyeball. I didn't close my eyes fast enough.
I just went for it because I was like, I have to spit it in your eye, because this is the whole symbolic thing, is that he's got one bad eye, and so she
spits it into his good eye. But I didn't shut my eye in time, so I got a shit ton of olive oil in me eye. It's dripping off my face onto your face, and we had to keep acting.
Yeah, because I spit it, but it fell back into my face. So I was like, oh, my eyes are burning. That was a fucking mess.
It was chaos.
It was so stupid.
It is a miracle that shot turned out.
I can't believe we're not blind. Seraphina Rosewood said, how many takes did you have to do of TT pulling off the curly Tonks wig to make it look like she was transforming? That was something we, again, figured out. Like, that was an idea I kind of was like, had.
In the moment.
Yeah. We tried to do the thing where I was wearing the dark Tonks wig.
And then we
tried to
switched
pause,
it, but it was so hard.
We tried to take the wig off and tried to put, and it just wasn't working. I was like, okay, hold on. Let me just put on the original Tonks wig. And we just laid the old wig across, and the way you held me, just like, you could only see like that portion of my hair. And so you were acting, and then your other hand out of shot was dragging the wig off, and then the purple hair was underneath, and it just looked fantastic. I was so happy.
That was fun.
That was great. Someone said, in all of your constant filming for Never Doubt, did you ever dream about the characters, or did you dream in character?
I mean, not necessarily
Not
like
whilst
during...
we were filming. Whilst I was writing, yes. And it actually helped inform a lot of like what I was writing.
Ah!
Yeah, I quite often have dreams and then write threads. And that whole thread I did where Tonks is poisoned and Snake.
Yep, that was all a dream.
With you. Crazy.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so funny.
I remember waking up being like, I was dying and you were being shit. There is no Lumos said, I'd like to know if you could change only one part or detail about the Rimadora canon story, what would it be?
Seeing more. Being able to see their actual relationship instead of 5 seconds of it.
I'm sorry, if you could change one part of the canon Rimadora, what would it be, TD?
I mean, obviously that they live, but...
Don't fucking
kill them!
I'm so angry that we're putting in so much work into these characters.
And they're gonna die.
And we had to kill them!
They're
There's
just
nothing
gonna
we can
die.
do.
It's not even an interesting death. I'm sorry. Like, Sirius to me made sense, and
They
Sirius
didn't-
contributes to an overarching plot, and there's something
There was
about
purpose to his death, but there was no...
Remadora was pointless.
I mean, okay, we had Teddy be another orphan of war, but there's
We've
just
already seen that
bullshit.
several times. We don't need it again.
need it.
We need them to be alive and raise
if-
Teddy.
But, like, if you're gonna have
And
that...
both of them.
Listen, if you're gonna have that and you're gonna have them die, why not make it meaningful? She's like, oh yeah, Tom's
By the way, they're
Bellatrix. Like, you didn't see any
You
of
don't
that.
see any of it. You don't see, like, Harry's reaction to any of
We're
it.
gonna fix that, don't worry.
Oh, we're fixing it. We're
Look
working on
forward to that. The last question. Were there any scenes that got cut from the final product, and do you have a favourite scene overall? There was lots of scenes that got cut. And
Like, at the
as it is.
beginning.
Yeah.
But once we had the final script, all we did was add scenes.
Okay, so the biggest change that got made is that the scene where Fenrir and Mima have their final showdown was never in the original script.
Nope.
I wrote it like in the last 2 weeks.
It was literally Remus left,
Remus
and then
left,
Remus came back.
and then Remus
And you
came
didn't
back.
see anything that happened in between.
Because I think I hadn't realised how important and crucial Mima was to this story when I was writing it. It was very much Remadora centric. But when we were filming and when we were editing stuff, I'm going, oh my god, this whole Mima sideline story is very important.
And it needs a resolution.
And it needs a resolution. Like, she just kind of went, oh, Remus, good luck, we're going to work together. And then you never see her again. The last scene originally you had of Mima was Mima and Remus talking. Mima never had a closed story arc with Fenrir. So I had to give that to her. And I was going, how can I do this? And how can I make this, like...
Wrap up 6 months in one scene. Well, and here's the thing, is you wrote it in a way that left it open so that if we want to make another series based off of
Covering
those
that,
6
those
months,
6 months. Yeah. we
it's
can-
perfect. But it also summed up those 6 months really well, because you see the change that's happened between Mima and Remus.
You see them working together. You know, like, Remus has been speaking with Bill. You know the plan they have in place. You can see what's been happening with Fenrir and how he's been, like, gone for longer and longer periods of time from the pack, which is how Remus and Mima have been able to, you know, get
Weasel
in
their
there.
way in.
So that was great. And I'm so pleased that got put in there. Unfortunately, it means that Mima died. It didn't make, like, Fenrir would have never let her live. Ever.
It was a brilliant addition, but we were very tired.
It was because we had filmed all of
We filmed
Fenrir's
everything.
scenes, and then so
Yeah.
we'd filmed all of Fenrir's stuff and all of Mima's stuff, and I had to, like, message TT and be like, hey TT, do you mind if you get back into Fenrir makeup at some point? They're like, what?
What?
I wrote another part. You did what? And then I showed it to them.
And I was like, okay.
So that was the biggest change that got made to the
Yeah.
script. Otherwise,
An entire section.
it happens.
And here's the thing, is it wouldn't have been the same script without it.
Oh,
So,
no, yeah.
like, it was very crucial information that you really needed. It's really fun because it opens up a whole nother storyline that you can jump into if you want to. And
So you know, it's not the last you're going to see of Mima. We do have a lot of stuff that we can do with her stuff. But
Yeah.
I feel like that was a good end to Mima's role in that series.
Yep.
So that was all the questions! Thank you for sending in such amazing questions. And thank you for supporting the series. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It was certainly a labour of love.
It was amazing. It was so much fun.
It's one of the favourite things I've ever done, and so I'm really glad from the response we've had from all of you guys. So thank you again, and until next time. Bye!
Bye!